Hello everyone, I'm Jamie from Shadowborn Games, the designer of Avalon, and welcome to this deep dive into some of the strategic choices that you'll come across as you play the game. Now, this is going to be a chance to get into some of the kind of decision space that we're going to have as we play through the game, and trying to give you a feel of what it's like to just take a turn. So the game is made up of different amounts of seasons, 2 or 3 seasons, and in each season there's three rounds in each season. So there'll be round 1, round 2, round 3, and in each of those rounds, each player will play one card and then do a variety of actions from their board to try and maximize their potential for the battles to come in the war phase. So what I've done here is I've set up a little basic setup for the game. There's kind of a sort of maybe exactly what a round 2 might look like in any given state. There's been a bit of exploration. We've revealed a few regions and we've placed a few dudes, and now we're going to be coming into the second turn to look at what decisions we're going to be making. So I just want to give you a bit of a rundown of what we're looking out for at kind of higher levels of play, so you can see some of the tough choices that you got to make as you get into the game. So some of the first things we'll be looking at is like the board state itself, like what's actually happening here. And we can kind of see that there's been this little bit of exploration already, and we can already see that there's some armies forming up and some positions that we want to be thinking about fighting over. So firstly, when you're deciding about the values of the different regions, you're really looking for the value of the victory points, the value of the victory points, the artifact in the region, and the effect of the artifacts. And this gives you an overall feel for how valuable this is. So I'll be looking at this and going, okay, this is worth 10 and 3, so that's 13 VP region plus then this effect. Okay, that's pretty valuable. Over here, we've already got an army here. This is season 2, so let's say this has got 9 plus 5 here. Okay, that's 14, so it's going to be worth that. But if we go over to somewhere like here, this one here is only going to be worth 8. And so that's going to be a slightly less valuable region. So when I'm looking at the board, I'm going to be thinking, okay, where can I place my units so I'm going to be getting the maximum value for money by their placement. And so it's not that you want to put everything in all your eggs in one basket, because there are many more victory points to be found by spreading your armies and having multiple banners waving across Avalon. But you also don't want to be committing heavily or spreading too thin, because some regions you want to be having a good sort of a solid force present to give you the best chance of winning the battle. Because what happens when you win is that if you win, you're going to get the artifact and you're going to get the victory points in full. However, if you lose, if you come second, you're only going to get half of these victory points and no artifact. So in this case, you'd get 5 VPs. So obviously there's a big difference between 14 and 5. So you're thinking, okay, if I'm going for it, I really want to win this region and make sure I get there, but I also want to win this region and many of the other regions. And even out there somewhere is the Holy Grail still waiting to be found, which is a very valuable region in itself, wherever that may be. Also, as you might have sort of noticed, there's a bit of a scale generally towards the middle for victory points. So the closer and further into Avalon you get, the more victory points things are worth, and you're kind of guaranteed a good victory point region in the middle. So that's another thing you're always thinking about, is kind of getting into that middle region as well, because regardless of whatever else happens, it's always going to be worth your time heading towards the middle as well. So that gives you a bit of an idea of the sort of game state we're in here, and we can see that a couple of things have happened. So at the moment, Mordred has moved into this exploration region. So we're looking at this guy and going, okay, we know something about this situation. When Mordred's moving into the mist, he's not going to be able to move out again until he explores that. That means he's kind of said, I'm going to explore this region. If we are playing the knights over here with Guinevere, so we're going to be on this side of the region, so we can't get to him very easily. It would take us at least 1, 2, 3 moves to get there, which is an extremely large amount of moves. So we're probably not going to try and steal that exploration from him. However, Baelor over here, who's next door, may be thinking about stealing that. However, if you go over to the game state, we can see that Mordred has a particular item. Last season, he won the Holy Grail. And what that's going to mean is that Mordred can force a win in a tie for initiative. So when we're playing our cards, we're going to go back over here and we're going to pick a card to play, and you can see the number in the top left here is going to be the initiative value. Whoever has the highest initiative when the card is chosen and they're played face down and turned face up, whoever has the highest card is going to get to go first. And that means in this case for Mordred, because he has the Grail, he can force the winning of that tie. If he plays a 3, he can guarantee he gets to explore this region, and that might be worth his time. Or else he may want to think that Mordred's going to steal it from him, and so wait for Baelor to come and reveal it, and perhaps then move off and explore a bit deeper in. But he would then have to have other moves and abilities and things to be able to do that. So over here we've got this we've got this situation with Guinevere, and we're going to be trying to decide which of these cards to use. And this is where it really comes in, because there are so many different ways to skin this cat. There's so many layers to the onion, the choices that are to be made. But there are guiding lights to this thing. So obviously the explorations around the board are very valuable, because whenever you explore, if like for instance this region, you're going to get this exploration bonus up here if you're the one to explore it. And these can be very powerful and useful. So if you can explore, it's a good idea to explore. However, it doesn't always fit in with the game state or the plan that you have for the turn, but there is definitely a benefit to doing so. So if we're going to want to be looking to see if we can explore, but also try and maximize whatever we're doing here on the board at the same time. The other big thing that's happening right now is the prophecies over here. So we can see there are prophecies from the Lady of the Lake, and whoever's going to win this prophecy, who basically get there first, is going to get a bunch of favor. So in this case, 3 favor for whoever comes first, and 2 for whoever comes second, third, fourth after that. So there's victory points to be gained and favor to be gained, but this is certainly something we want to be aiming for and getting first if we can, because whoever's furthest up this track by the end of the season will get Excalibur, and Excalibur is an incredibly powerful artifact that is going to go straight to your lord and give you a bunch of strength in combat. So everybody wants it all the time, and everyone's going to try to go for it. So in this case, we're looking at the prophecies and seeing what it says. So this is have a unit in 5 revealed regions, and have 2 units in at least 3 revealed rivers or forests. So looking at the board state, we're going, okay, I can see there's a river. I can see there's a river over here. This here is a mountain, as you can see by the little mountain symbol next to the name, and this is a mountain. So we've got 2 mountains, 2 rivers, no forests. One thing we actually know as we play the game a bit and we get to know the layouts of things is we actually understand that the middle region is always a mountain, the mountain of Ephilogoth, and then around the outside we have a distribution of forests and rivers. So we know that these ones will be forest and rivers, and we then know that these will be a distribution of all 3 types on the outside. So we can actually tell that if we were to go to this region, we would guarantee ourselves a forest or a river. Now we know that there is a river here and a river here, and that means if we go here, we would have a 3rd region that we could get into and actually fulfill this prophecy. However, we need to have 2 units in each of those, and currently we only have 2 units in one of them. So we need to explore this one and also gain 2 more units in here somehow. So we're going to be thinking about how we can get over there. Secondly, it says have a unit in 5 revealed regions, and we have 4 revealed regions currently. So an exploration would give us a 5th, but we'd need to have a unit in here and in here, which we don't currently have, plus then exploring somewhere else. So it is possible to do it, but we're going to have to find a creative way of getting there. So going back to our board, our cards, we're going to have a look at the options that we have available. So the different card colours here are representing the different effects that they will have in a sort of general way. So the green cards would always give you deploys, the move cards would always give you moves, and so the yellow cards will always give you moves, and the settlement cards are here in blue. So we have all these options doing the battle plan cards here. These cards are only going to be used in the war phase later on. However, they can be used to bid for mythical beasts when we find them based on the initiative on the cards. So looking at the card set, there's a couple of things that immediately come to mind. First, we've got these 2 prophecies we wanted to try to fulfill. We want to try and get a move over here, and we also want to try and get into a lot of these regions if possible. So we're looking for things that might help us deploy and move, and in a particular way. So we want to cover a lot of ground with this card. So if we look over here with these deploy cards, we've got 2 different ones here. This one would give us 4 individual deploys, 1, 1, and 1, and 1, and 1, and they would go to 4 different regions. They could be, so we could actually deploy one here, and we can't deploy into the middle yet because we don't have a settlement here, but we could then deploy a second one into one of these regions. That would actually give us our 2 here that we would need for this one. So we'd be able to get up to 2 here and 2 here. Still not 2 here yet, but we would cover both of those. So that would get us there. This one here would give us 4 and 1, so we could get 1 here and 4 here. That gives us the same effect a little bit there. And this is going to give us some victory points and power. Power is going to be useful for our faction board up here, so that'll help us unlock maybe some extra special abilities as we save up, and that's going to help us like deploy more things with Slay the Beast, or save up for being able to use like the 2 arms ability over here with Guinevere. That's going to be very useful in the battle to come to help us level the playing field. So power is going to help us quite a lot, but then we have these moves as well. So these moves are going to be helping us get these explorations that we need. Now this is where we kind of start to see how the game interacts with the cards and the faction board. So as you might have noticed on the cards here, the only card that actually has movement cards on them are the movement yellow cards. So the other ones don't have movement on them. It's a very rare thing for those to have that effect. So movement can be gained from these other cards guaranteed. But if we want to play these other cards, we do actually have other options. So going down here on our board, we actually have a couple of different things here. So first, this mount ability over here would allow us to get this exploration move that we want right now, if we choose to do so, without having to play a movement card to be able to do it. The other thing we also have here is Sir Gawain. So Sir Gawain is over here already on the board, and he's actually in a settlement region, which is helpful for his ability, because if he's in a settlement region, he ignores the power cost. We don't actually have any power to spend anyway right now, so it would ignore the cost. This would be free, and we'd be able to do this big move out, which would allow us to scatter all of our units to different regions, and that would actually help us with both of these prophecies were we to do it. So this means that we could actually get these other cards working without needing to use the movement cards. However, if we did use the movement cards, we could save these abilities for another time. Particularly this mount ability is seen as very precious, and because it can give you favor or a card or another deploy, all three of which are very valuable. So if we burn our movement to be able to do that, we won't be able to use these other effects later in the season. Favor may actually win us Excalibur, and so using the move now may cost us Excalibur later. Having the cards there may mean that we don't have enough cards to fight in a certain battle, and that battle would be lost because we just didn't have the cards we needed to maximize our potential strength there. So there's a lot of kind of care that's taken over spending this mount ability, and also these other abilities, which obviously are very valuable whenever they're used throughout the term. The other consideration we have while making this choice is over here on our artifacts board. So we gained the Waters of Tigris earlier on in the game, and it says here that in a turn where you choose a 2 initiative card to play, we gain a power. Now we don't have any power, so it'd be great to gain some extra power if we could, and we do actually, looking across, have this card here. So this one here is pretty powerful. It's going to give us two power, one from the card here and also one from using the Waters of Tigris, give us 5 victory points, which is pretty sweet, and going to give us this quite chunky amount of deployments. However, this comes at a cost. If you look at the card cost here, it has 3 card costs to be able to do this, whereas we may get away with only spending 1 card on some of these other effects. Secondary to that, this is a kind of like, it's an immediate benefit. It's going to be very good, but it's not going to keep paying dividends for very long in the game. Over here we have our settlement cards, and settlements are very valuable because when you deploy them onto the regions and you kind of get there, not only do you get a bonus for settling them immediately, which you'll get, say in this case, another card, which is very helpful, but also we're going to get warriors and victory points for doing so, not only now but in the next mist phase and at the end of the game. And so we're going to harvest some victory points by getting that down. So we really do want to get these settlements down. Alas, however, they're not going to give us all this movement and major deployment right now that maybe we would want to get. There's another consideration that's happening here as well. So when we're looking at this thing, we've got these 2 initiative cards here that if we do that, we're going to get this bonus. However, if we play a 2 initiative card, it leaves us open. So if an enemy plays a 3 initiative card into this situation, they will go first, and that means they might be picking up these prophecies first, exploring first, and doing other things. We also can see from the board state that there's an opportunity for us here, because Mordred over here he's already got this region in the bag for 2 reasons. One, he's already there, so he doesn't need to do any movement to get there, but mainly because he has the Holy Grail, and that's going to mean that he gets to go first. He can force his way to going first and exploring this region, which he may want to do in this case. If he does that, which we can kind of guess there's a fair chance of him doing it, if he does that, then Baelor has a problem. Because Baelor, if this is explored before his turn, can only explore this region. Getting anywhere else will take lots more movement. And Baelor has 2 options here. Either he can deliberately play something like a movement card, which has multiple moves on it, and this would allow him to move and move again, maybe getting to the middle. But it might be quite costly for him. Depends on his strategy and what he's trying to do. But it may be that we can get him stuck here, because if he's got a deploy card or settle card that he's using, it may be quite unlikely that he'll be able to explore, and that'll be a benefit to us if we get to explore and he doesn't. But to do that, we're going to need to take this region off his hands, and the way we need to do that is by forcing a 3 rather than a 2. The reason that a 3 would get us this bonus is because if we go to the game board, there's a hierarchy to how these ties are decided. So if 2 players play a 3, we go down to a tie break, and the tie break is decided by whoever holds the grail first gets to decide where they go in the position, and then after that it comes down to victory points, and whoever has the least amount of victory points is going to break that tie and get to go first. In this case, we happen to have 1 less victory point than the Fomorians, so this is going to work to our advantage to do this. We know without a shadow of a doubt that if Mordred plays this, we are going to be able to guarantee this exploration and take the exploration away from Baelor. So that's particularly useful for us to know. So there's another sort of area there, and like who gets to go when. Can I play the 3? So now I'm stuck in this tough choice of, do I play the 3 to guarantee the explore, but I lose the power of the 2 initiative here. I'm going to need to use a move from somewhere else over here to be able to do that, and that's going to cost me my mount ability. So get the explore, but don't get the to use these things later on. So the next sort of thing there is I will get that settlement, though, the bonus of the settlement, and that's another thing that's going to be important because that's going to keep paying dividends as the game goes on. And last, we still have to come back to this idea of we want these prophecies, we really do. So can we get into those? And if we can get into this region, we're going to get these prophecies. So for this case, I think we're going to try and get into the region and try and get in there fast. And in terms of getting in there fastest, these are our options. Out of the 2 here, we have these 2 here. This one here is going to be allowing you to settle if an enemy has at least 4 strength in a region. This is not going to be too valuable to us because the only places that this would happen is if I can get in over here or over here. Yeah, I think that for the future of the game, I'd rather have a settlement in one of these regions and the inner sections of the board, because then I'll be able to deploy there into the middle of the board in later turns rather than deploy into the outer regions. So this has an advantage to it, but I'm going to have to try and reach that criteria. Borderlands, however, this actually works much better for our situation, because if there's no enemy units in a region there, we can settle, and that's going to help us a lot because we know there's not going to be any units there when we kind of get into this situation with beating Baelor to the punch. So looking down this, we're also going to get a deploy out of this guy, and that's going to help us because we're going to be able to deploy into this region, just a little dude into this place to get us more of these regions towards our prophecies. So let's have a look what happens here. So we're going to play this card. We're going to choose to do this card, and we can see that there's a cost in the left hand corner here. There's a little asterisk symbol here. This is going to say that if we do a particular thing, we're going to actually get a card reduction cost. So this says don't spend a card if you play a movement card to pay for this. So we're going to take our card separator, we're going to put our card we're going to play on the left, and then we're going to pick another card to pay the cost for, and this is another choice that we need to make here now. This itself is its own little mini game of deciding what to do with these things. So this guy particularly wants us to use a move card, and both of these movement cards are 1 initiative cards. Not too much in this in the thing, but we do have to look at the abilities and see if one of them is more likely to be helpful to us than the other. This one's going to give us power. That's going to help us out a bit. It's got some fairly good moves. This is going to deploy more though, and looking at our board state, we have quite a lot of units left to deploy. So if we're thinking about which one to keep, probably the one that has more deploys at this point might be helpful, even though the other one's going to give us power. What we're also thinking about normally when we're discarding cards is just how much the sort of initiative these cards have. So in the game, when mythical beasts come onto the board, you're going to be bidding cards, and the initiative on the cards is going to be the value of the bid. So you might be bidding 3, 6, 9 more the initiative to try and get a mythical beast on side and to gain its allegiance. And so the one decision you're making about when you're discarding cards is, am I discarding some of the higher initiative cards or not? But then knowing that some of these lower initiative cards have very powerful and useful effects. Not only that in season 3 often whoever goes last is going to have an advantage because they're going to be able to see what everyone else does before the battle arrives. And in that case, then actually having some ones in your hand is very valuable because you want to be able to make a good 1 initiative choice next turn. 2s are valuable in sort of both ways, and these 2s actually are going to be augmented by this. I also want to be keeping my 2 just in case I want to play that for the extra power next turn. So there's a bit of a tough choice there, but in this case actually it's not too bad because we have we need to play a movement card, and we got this one here. So what we would then do is we would put this down on the board with the other card on top of it, and then we would flip it over to show what we're doing. Now, in this case, let's just play out the turn a little bit for a minute and just see what would happen with this situation. So in this case, we're going to first play out the card, and we actually have a choice in which order we do these things in. So we don't actually have to play the card first. We can actually play some of the abilities on our faction board or our artifacts and things first if we want to. So we could use any of these effects, like for instance this big move ability here first, or we could use these effects here over here on the mount first if we wanted to. So the question is, do we want to explore this region first using the mount, which we are going to have to spend to get that explore, or do we want to use the card first? Well, in this case, we do absolutely want to use the mount first, because in doing so, we're going to be able to explore this region and then settle it using this card. So we're going to move in here, and we're going to pretend we've got this guy here, and we're going to flip this region, and we're going to move in. Now, this region here is going to give us an inspiration bonus, and here we have 2 dudes, a favor and a champion. So we have a lot of dudes left to go on the board, so we can get 2 warriors in this region, or we can go up the favor track. At the moment everyone's equal in favor. That's going to give us a bit of an advantage, because if we can keep moving up the favor track, we're going to be able to it's just stay ahead of the curve, stay ahead of the pack. We might get Excalibur. So I think that favor's looking pretty tasty right now. However, there is a last option, which is a champion, so we can actually move a whole champion into this region, and depending on what's behind this card, this will affect our choice here a bit, because actually it's nice if we can get a champion into a region with another artifact, and we know there are artifacts left over, that'd be quite useful. It's good to know about the sort of distribution of artifacts and things when we're talking about this sort of high level play. So in the Mist deck, which is put into each of the regions, there is always an artifact for every player effectively. So it's 1 per player in the player count. So this is a 3-player game. So there's 3 artifacts on the board, plus the Holy Grail as a 4th artifact, which is in the Mist somewhere. And then there would be 3 mythical beasts hidden out there as well. So it's kind of a 50-50 chance of finding a mythical beast or an artifact as you go around. So in this case, we're going to look at this and go, okay, well, I think we're going to take the favor in this case, because that's going to help get us ahead of the pack. So we're going to take that. That's going to give us that power. We needed that power for some of these extra abilities, so that's very helpful. Then we're going to flip the Mist card. In this case, it is an artifact. So we found the 3rd artifact. So we're starting to gather more information. We now know something specific. We know that the Grail and a mythical beast is out there somewhere, and that's what's left between these two locations, and that we can think of investing heavily into these, but knowing that there's still a Grail to be found. So now we're going to go back to the card we've explored, and now we're going to hit this. So we have a deploy and then a power. So the deploy now is, which thing do we deploy? Champions, warriors, mythical beasts if we have them. Every single unit in the game only takes 1 deploy whenever it's done. So we can deploy any of them freely. It all just works off that 1 symbol. So we know for the going back to our prophecies over here, we have 5 regions we want to be in. We're in 3 currently. And then we also want to be in these revealed regions. Now what we have done here is something is getting ready to be triggered. So we've got these. We've found our river, so we're now got 3 rivers on the board. If we can just get 2 dudes into these 3 rivers, we're going to hit this prophecy. Now, how do we get there? Well, it can be done. So we've done our deploy, and we've done our power. Now we're going to settle. There's no enemy units in this region, so we can settle freely. And as you can see down here on the board, there is a card attached to the bonus here. So if when we settle here, we're going to get a card straight away, and we're going to have a tough choice on which one to pick here. Now we've got another turn left in the season, so it can be a good idea to start thinking about gaining some more combat cards and things to be able to give you a wider range of effects that you can draw on during the battle phase. But if you draw on combat cards, you're not going to have as wide a variety of choices on the card we're going to play next turn. So one thing you could kind of be asking yourself is, have we actually got a really strong solid pick here that you know that you want to play next turn? And if you do, maybe gathering more combat cards would actually be a higher play here, because you're able to give yourself more variety in the future. However, if you think that maybe you could get a better effect than this, which is quite possible, it might be then time to think about what you want to do next turn. Do we want to try and get that 3rd settlement out before the end of the phase, so we get some big victory points for this turn and next turn, because these actually scale up to 3 and underneath 5. So if we did that, we could actually get quite a lot of victory points in that settle. So maybe we want to give ourselves ourselves some options. We know that this card earlier wasn't helping us too much in the situation we found ourselves in, so maybe we want to be thinking about getting another settle to get that last card out. How do we think about our deploys? We've got another 8 units to get out in one turn after this, so is it a good idea for us to maybe focus on getting a big deploy card out that can help us bring out the larger part of our force as the game goes on? So there's all these sort of choices to make. In this case, maybe I'd think about taking the settle card, so we just add that in there, and we've got a new effect which is going to play out in a different way than the other card we have. So the other thing that's going to happen is as we settle here, we've got this card. We've also going to get these effects straight away. So we're going to get 3 victory points and the warriors. So we're going to get our two warriors. They're going to come down onto the board and they're ready to fight for us. So we're going to get 3 victory points. So the next thing that's going to happen then is we're going to have a look at this state that we're in. And we're like, okay, we've got a dude. Sorry, we forgot to deploy our dude, didn't we? Here we go. This guy was going to deploy over here. We're going to deploy a dude here, so we've got at least one guy in here. We don't worry too much about the battle. There's quite a lot of enemy forces here, and I don't think we're going to win it. But we're going to put a guy in there anyway, just so that we can cover this situation with the prophecy. So finally, what we're then going to do is we're going to see if there's a way of getting into this region and this region with the extra guy, because we need 2 units in this region. We've only got the 1 right now. And this is where we go back to our faction board and we look over it and we go, okay, we do actually have something we can use. We talked about Gawain earlier, and this is a big ability he has, and we do now have the power we need for it. So we can put a power on there. Actually, we don't even need to spend the power because we've got the settlement, which is going to ignore the cost because we are actually settled here already, which is valuable for Gawain as he advances the kingdom. So anyway, we've got this power ability to be able to scatter our units, and this is where we can actually take all the units here and scatter them as we wish. So we've actually got 2 champions here in the region already. Now, having multiple champions in the same region is not particularly an optimal move. The reason is that all of the units in the game have 1 strength basic, unless they are carrying an artifact, which will always add strength, as you can see in the bottom of the card, or it's a mythical beast, which always has whatever the strength is depicted on its on the card itself at the bottom, usually 2 or 3 with additional effects and special abilities. So in this case, having this guy here is still just a 1 strength dude, and what happens in the battle within the game is that wherever you have a hero, which is a lord or a champion, you can play battle plans, which is these cards. Without lords or champions to lead your armies, you cannot make a battle plan. You're just a bunch of dudes fighting in a sort of a bit of an unordered rabble. So we need to try and get these champions and these lords into as many artifact areas as possible to be able to help this situation. So what we're going to try and do is, I think this guy is right on the list of people where when we start scattering from this region, using that ability we just talked about with Gawain, he's going to be heading off to an artifact region. Now, there is a decision to be going, do I go here or do I go here? It's quite likely the next turn we want Guinevere to try and head to the middle to do a last bit of exploration, which would be helpful. So maybe we should think about putting another guy here, or we could try deploy in here later and deploy our last champion who's over here into this region to kind of back up this artifacts. We'd be competing in all 3 artifact regions, but we still know the Grail's out there somewhere. We might want to be thinking about putting a big army into that Grail region as well. But anyway, so we got the champion. We're going to send this guy over here for 1, and we also need a second guy in there to reach the prophecy requirements. Then we're also going to send another guy out into here, and then we don't really want to send too many more people out from this situation because we've already got quite a strong army here fighting over a quite valuable region, so we don't really want to put more people into other regions than we need to when this is a live battle situation. But what we have now managed to do is in one stroke complete both prophecies, which is fantastic for this case. So what we'd do is we'd be able to place one of our free action cubes over here onto the region to get the victory points and also to get the favor, and that's going to head us up the favor. We're going to get 3 for completing that one, and then we would go up and get 3 for completing this one. And as we go up, we would be getting these rewards as we go up the track. So this would be 2, 3, 5 victory points, a card, and some catch-up victory points around the star system, which is gained if you're using the catch-up mechanism. But this would be a particularly strong play. Very rare to be able to complete both prophecies in the same turn without it, without others sort of managing to find a way around it or get there first. But this is kind of an example of what would be happening with these with this game state, is being able to try and find a way of completing all the prophecies whilst positioning ourselves for these battles to come, and thinking about denying some of the power away from our enemies, making that tough choice over which cards you're going to be making, which cards you're going to keep back, and ultimately just trying to maximize this landscape of victory points that you're going to be getting through the war, through the prophecies, through playing out your cards and using your faction abilities. So I hope you've enjoyed this this deep dive. And yeah, I'm sorry for it was a long one, quite a lot to say, but as you can see, this was just a single decision that has so many different layers to how you could play it, what you could do to it, the different strategies you could go for. We could have done this 4 or 5 different ways with different options, and every one of them could be good, but ultimately a big part of this game is finding the perfect card, going through this hand and feeling out which one is going to give you the maximum benefit, alongside using all these effects, and then reacting to the movements and positioning of your opponents, the things you know they can get away with in your turn, the initiatives on the cards, and the prophecies and that hunt for the Grand Excalibur. They're going to be key to helping you attain victory across the island. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it gave you a bit of a clearer idea of kind of just how deep some of the strategy can get to in the game. There's actually plenty more levels beyond this, but hope this gives you a taste. Cheers, guys. See you on the next one. Bye.